And we are here on Live with the Shaman. And bring up Discord. There we go. Welcome to those of you that are joining us in Discord today. A bit of a reminder, if you want to listen to that group I was just listening to, I always put the link to the music that we open with in the description area in the upper right side. It's also pasted in the area of YouTube where we upload it under the description. Hell of a nice group. I really like their broadcast. Excellent music. So we're going to be talking today. Oh, and I do need to remind everyone who watches our broadcast by licensing agreement, I guess you could say, on all of our places that we upload to. I do have to remind everyone this is a adult group where we are liable to use adult conversation. Go figure. So while I'm bringing up what we're going to be talking about today, Flying Without a Broom, this is one of the books that I recommend all of my students read, and it's actually recommended for anyone that wants to understand the basics, if you will, of astral travel. Now, I know that a lot of people use the term astral projection. Me personally, I disagree with that. If anyone's talking in Discord, I can't hear you. Oh, looks like we got... Go ahead, Cindy. Yeah, I can't hear you.
No, you can.
There you are. Gotta push the button.
And pull the button down so it's activated.
Yeah, well, there is that too. So for those of you that are going to be watching our broadcast on the pre-recorded today, we're going to be going over the book, and I'm just going to hit some highlights. I'm not going to go through and read the whole damn thing, but I'm just gonna kind of hit some highlights. All right. The book is Flying Without a Broom. It is written by DJ Conway. All right, DJ Conway puts out some pretty good information. Let me move this up out of the way. Yep, there we go. Right. So, DJ Conway writes a book called Astral Projection in the Astral World. What is it? Well, first off, the first thing you need to understand is astral projection. The astral itself is referred to as the astral, alternative plane, the other world. It's also referred to as the plane of planes, or the astral plane. You'll hear it referred to as multiple different things. Essentially, it is a spiritual realm that neither rides above nor below our existing realm, the real life realm, but it exists in correspondence with ours. Now, you'll hear people talk about the realm of the dead. At the time of this video, October 6, 2019, we're moving into the thinning of the veil for Samhain. By October 31st, the veil is at its thinnest. Actually, 30th and the 31st is at its thinnest. And that is when it is so very easily to talk to the dead, give thanks to the dead. You know, those who essentially paved the path for us and for others to be able to go forward. Parents, ancestors, direct relations or just good friends. Sometimes you can reach them through astral travel, especially this time of the year when the veil is at its thinnest. So if there are no questions, without further ado, okay, so as it were, I want to make sure I give credit where credit is due. This book was written in 1998. It was written by D.J. Conway. And he has a really nice poem here where, well, the table of contents in and of itself kind of form a bit of a poem, I guess you could say. Get that up here where people can see it. So here's your index. Kind of what were your contents. Kind of what we're going to do is I'm going to slide on down to a couple of different pages here. And what I want to do is just kind of give you an introduction. Yes, I do have the PDF over on the OpenGCS page. All right. If you'd like a copy of it, you can go over there and check it out. I do strongly recommend that you slide over and purchase your used copy of it on Amazon if you don't mind. People have already flipped through the pages. This thing, I think, is still in print. I really actually think this is still in print, and because it is a very popular book. Of course, on page 5 talks about the astral projection in history. Right? You'll notice where it talks about many of the old stories. Talks about the witches who flew without brooms. There's a whole lot of lore that goes behind the witch that flew on the broom, the witches that flew on brooms. And like I say, I'm not going to go through this thing, and I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. Now this is the section I think everyone really needs to pay attention to. I don't know if I can highlight these or wah! Oh, that's screwed up. Zoom out.
I'll be able to screw up with the device.
Zoom out. Holy shit. Alright, here we go.
Too big.
Right. I think that ought to be about right from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's good.
Down here, the last line, up above here is talking about the different hallucinogens that some people use to astral travel. I like where he says none of these translations of ingredients can be called accurate, right? And you have to remember several of these plants can cause rapid heartbeat, delusions, and they can kill your ass. Of course, she didn't put that in there, but I will put that in there. Obviously, the drugs can help you reach astral, blah, blah, blah. Travel because it's forgotten. Now, on that, I want to break off right there. Please understand that we know there are a boatload of psychotropic drugs out there that can help you reach astral travel. Most all of these drugs, if not used correctly, if you're going to use drugs at all, can fry your brain. They can kill you. They are addictive. I can tell you the Grove of the Celtic Shaman does not believe in using drugs to achieve astral travel or to achieve past life regression or anything else. Everything from the standpoint of the Grove of the Celtic Shaman that you can do with the use of hallucinogenic drugs or psychotropics can be done without that. I want to make sure that is plainly known in the Grove of the Celtic Shaman. What is your opinion on that, Cindy? I think you're still on.
About herbs and stuff for astral travel?
Yeah, I wanted to make the point about using psychotropics and drugs and stuff to make astral travel, that, the danger of these damn things, and that they can actually kill you.
Yes, I agree. I've used some wormwood and a couple other ones that don't use them. It makes you might have astral trouble, but you have no control of it.
Well, see, and Cindy makes a really good point that when you use psychotropics and you use drugs to achieve meditation, astral travel, out of body experience, or any of the things that we can do naturally, you have no control over it. And here's a better one: you don't know how real it is.
Right. That's like when I go astral travel. If I'm with my counsel, I'll get to a point where okay, I want to verify this, and they have a way of telling me in their way, and none other spirit will tell.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong there. I know that my spirit guides, they give me bits and pieces and parts of information through astral, and I have to put it together for myself. It's like the old saying goes: when you ask a math teacher what is 1 plus 1, and she says, "What do you think it is?" Generally, when they ask me what 1 plus 1 is, and I give them my answer, they don't like it. But there you go. So with that being said, I really wanted to harp on, you don't need drugs to astral travel. Of course, they're covered in the book because they've always been used as far back as we can remember to use hallucinogens or psychotropic drugs to achieve. Some people call it dreamscape. Some people call it vision. It's called 1,000 different things. But astral travel is what it is, and the reason I require my students to read these books and then come to me and talk to me about them is because it educates them on astral travel, the right way and the wrong way to do it. Now, I reiterate, my students are not allowed to use drugs, prescription, and I've eased off on marijuana because it's not as illegal as it used to be. But even still, I realize you got to do what you got to do if you suffer from chronic pain. You got to do what you got to do if you suffer from chronic illnesses. But don't use psychotropic drugs. There, I think I beat that dead horse.
Yeah.
He even says here, it is quite unnecessary and very dangerous to use drugs to produce a loosening of the astral body from the physical body. Now, that was one of the big things that attracted me to his writing to begin with. He very clearly states it's not necessary. You want your mind to be totally under your control during the meditation and astral travel. Besides, the brain produces its own chemicals for a high. It was discovered in 1959 that the pineal gland secretes melatonin. Ho, 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 ho. Melatonin also was secreted during sex. But anyway, I digress. Which is derived by blah, blah, blah. You can go through and read all of this. And the thing I really like about the way he writes his books is he gives a lot of history on both sides, on the pagan and the Christian side of astral travel. And what I've always found really quite funny is that when it comes to astral travel, pagans aren't the only one that can do it. It's not a pagan thing, it's not a shaman thing, it's not a witch thing, it's not a Christian thing, it's a human thing. Humans, at birth, have the ability to do psychic travel. They can astral travel, they can OBE, they can, kids, oh my God, kids can see things that adults can't. And I always wanted to remember how to see those things. And the further I came to adult, the less I could see. It kind of pissed me off, personally, but there you go. So, flipping right over, around that, page 8. So, flipping right on down to chapter 2, the astral plane, he talks about one of the things to understand about astral travel has to be the divisions of your mind which influence it. The brain is not the same as the mind. The brain is the physical body, the origin, the actual mass, if you will, that is your brain. The mind itself, which comes from the Greek word minus, M-I-N-O-S, or the spirit. That's where the word mind originates from. Of course, nowadays, it's kind of encompassed all in one. People think the brain is the mind. And we know in shamanism it is not. As you use your brain to study things and to remember things, you're using all different parts of the mind to be able to do the different things that you want to do. And he talks about, he says, all those scientists have determined many functions of the brain. Science does not have any idea or explanation of the function of the mind except in vague terms or even where it's possibly located. Well, that is because the mind is the entire device. You have different portions of your mind. You have, if we want to talk about the brain and the different portions of the brain, these are also going to be the different portions of the mind. As we use different parts of the mind to be able to utilize different aspects of what the brain can do, this is why self-healing is handled at the level of the mind or the spirit and is not handled by the brain. We use the different parts of our mind to be able to meditate, to astral travel, to be able to do healing that we do, and all of that connects to spirit, which to my experience is up in the crown, up in the highermost part of the brain is where spirit is housed. Do I know the scientific names of all of the different origins of the brain? I do not. Not even going to get into that topic. But you'll notice I really like the way he breaks it down in an understanding where people can get it. Let's see. Okay, now here's where we talk about low voltage brain waves. Now, let's see, beta waves. Now, once he gets into talking about the alpha waves, the beta waves, the different cycles, the metronomes, page 10, if you're reading the book, page 10 kind of starts with understanding the different metronomes. Well, what is a metronome? A metronome is a constant, repetitive tick. Anybody that's ever had any music training, they use the little metronome that ticks back and forth, right? And depending on where you slide the scale up or down, depends on whether you've got a 1 second tick, and you can slide it down a little further and come up with a half-second tick, so on and so forth. I think you get the idea. But I have meditated and I have astral traveled to metronomes before. I lost the one I had many years ago, but I absolutely loved it. There are different stages. You go through your alpha waves, which is
What
here.
was it?
What was
Sorry.
it? Metronome?
Metrodome.
No, not metrodome. Metronome. Um, over here. Left-hand monitor. Let's see. So you have 14 to 28 cycles per second connected with any activity in the consciousness brain are called beta waves. Now, beta waves can spike at about 50 cycles. When you're under stress, such as when you're experiencing fear, anxieties, and frustration or anger, your brain can run at 50 cycles per second. What is a cycle? Well, let's talk about that. We're talking about metronomes again. When they are talking about 14 to 28 cycles per second, they're talking about how many beats per second your brain is ticking. Okay? If you count, hell, I can't even snap 14 times in a second. Right? So if you start snapping, you go 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. Those are cycles. The metronome is the thing that makes the noise. Hell, let me Google one. I'll show you what I'm talking about. How about that shit? Okay. Let me pull this over here. Okay. I think you guys will be able to hear this. Can everybody hear that?
Yeah.
Now that is per minute. Okay? These guys he is talking about, and their studies they talk about, are per second. So if you could imagine, somebody do the math, there's 60 seconds. There's 60 seconds in a minute. So if we go at the lowest brain wave of 14, that'd be 14 times 60. Somebody give me that number.
840.
840?
Yes, sir.
Alright. I don't think this damn thing will go up to 840. The fastest it'll go is 218 beats per minute. Now you'll notice it went orange. I'm going to show you why it went orange. So tell me, how quick would that get on y'all's nerves?
A lot. Oh, Lord.
Alright.
How do you can't concentrate to do that?
Okay. So now let's go back. Alright. This is 60 beats per minute, which is 1 beat per second. Right? Now if you go with that, that allows you to be able to heartbeat, to heart breathe. Hell, I can't figure out my mouse is going. Okay, that can allow you to what's called a heartbeat and a heart breathe. Right? So what that does is is at 60 beats per minute, and he will say further on down the line that what you want to do is you want to set your metronome device. Alright, so in case any of you don't know, that is what I'm talking about.
And there's an app on your phone you get.
Yes, there's an app on your phone. However, I don't recommend using a digital device. This gives you a visual that you can concentrate on in your visual understanding. So thereby you have a visual context and an audible context. You'll notice this one winds up. So once it winds down, it quits. And there's an importance to that I'm going to talk to you about here in a few moments. But when you start talking about metronomes, does anybody want me to copy and paste that link? Or, I mean, it's easy to find in Amazon, whatever. Alright, so when you start talking about metronomes and the different speeds of the different metronomes, when you think about the human brain thinking in 14 to 28 average ticks, a cycle is a tick per second. The object is to slow that down. The object is to slow it down. Now, he talks about right here, hopefully everybody can see it, the subconscious mind exhibits alpha brain waves from 8 to 13 cycles per second, or 8 to 13 ticks per second. Often these alpha waves are mixed in with still slower theta waves, Theta. Once you get down into the theta, from the alpha, the beta, and the theta, yeah, so let's talk about how that works. Alpha is here. Anybody, what somebody say? Okay, alpha is here. The forward eye works at the alpha beta level. The third eye, forward eye, third eye, whatever, works at the alpha beta level. By the time you get into theta, which is back towards spirit, back in the furthest reaches of the mind, that's when you can slow your mind processes down to something that is much more doable and much more comfortable. So let me ask you a question for those of you that are watching live and those of you that are, yes, Dave says theta is deep sleep or deep meditation. That is where people are hypnotized, and as they become more hypnotized, they are put in a theta state. Some people will call it, I can't remember what the other word is for theta, but it's alpha beta. It's alpha beta theta.
There's a there's a man called he why can't I think of his name? Michael Newton. Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. But Journey of Souls is a case study of lives between lives, and everybody from different areas, religions, talk about the same thing of lives between lives. And what he did was he accidentally stumbled on this. He regressed people in the deep theta realm, and they could remember their past life or their lives between lives, like what happens even. So.
Right, yeah, and here's the other one that I was looking for that's deeper than theta. Right? I knew there was one, but damned if I can remember which one it was. Um, Third part is often okay. So theta waves average between 4 and 7 cycles per second, or 4 to 7 ticks per second. When we successfully reach the subconscious mind state, remember we're not talking about brain, we're talking about the mind itself here. We're in deep meditation or trance or astral travel. Now, the fourth category, also known as the fourth dimension, is the delta. Now, um, I will tell you right now, I have reached delta once. I reached delta once. It was many, many years ago. It was done accidentally. And I seriously, absolutely thought I was dead. I was no longer in a state of delta. Now theta, you got to be careful with theta, because you can forget you're alive. Now keep in mind that your physical brain will keep your body breathing, your heart doing what it needs to do, irregardless of whether the subconscious is there or not. So once you've reached the theta state, there is your REM sleep, your deep sleep. But the other side of it is that's where your astral is at, your deep meditation. For the longest time, astral was referred to as deep state meditation or dreamscape. So you'll hear a lot of books refer to dreamscape, and some people that haven't actually been around very long will say astral and dreamscape are different, and they are not. A dream, now check this, depending on who you talk to, a dream is usually black and white. Now there are those few people that dream in living color. Okay, fine, more power to you. But on an average, a dream is black and white, and you have complete and total control over your dreams. You have complete and total control over your dream, and you know it's a dream because the moment subconsciously you wonder, what's this all about? You can send a mind thought on the web in your mind to that dream and change it. You can make some things color, you can make some things go away, you can make people disappear. In the astral, you can't do that. When you are a part of someone else's astral plane, or you're visiting someone else, they control their plane. The only control you have is over your own plane. And you see what I'm talking about. So if we look at the fourth the fourth segment of the brain, or the fourth segment of the mind, which runs 4 to 7 cycles or 4 to 7 ticks per second, that is still faster. Somebody, what is it, 4 times 60 would be 120. Times 4 is 12, 24. Be 124, wouldn't it?
Right.
Alright. So let's look at what 124 would be like for the forward mind. Now, this is the delta. That's not quite so bad. You can actually meditate you can actually meditate at 124 beats per minute if if you can let yourself slow down long enough to do that. Or should I say, allow your thought processes to come up to that level.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
Okay? So you start with the alpha, which is the brain just super firing and just really got things winding up. That's where, when you're trying to sleep and your mind slips into thinking about bills you haven't paid. Maybe somebody said something that hurt your feelings. Maybe you did something some years ago that you feel guilty about. That resides in the alpha and the forward part of the beta. Once you get below the physical world into the beta and you get behind the conscience of the beta into the theta, then you can really actually reprogram your forward mind to do the things that you want it to do. And like I say, I met Delta once, and I have never been able to achieve Delta since. Now, I don't mind telling you, it scared the living shit out of me at, 0.5 to 3 cycles per second. 0.5 to 3 cycles per second on the Delta. That's enough to scare the shit out of anybody. So when theta waves are running at 4 to 7 and delta are running 0.5 to 3, a good mid-range would be about 1.5. So somebody give me 1.5 times 60.
Say it again.
1.5 times 60.
$90.
Okay. There we go. Alright, here is 90 beats per minute at theta, delta level. Sorry, delta. That's even better still. So tell me, does anybody have a theory, and we're talking strictly theories here, does anybody have a theory why the forward mind is more comfortable at 60 beats per minute? My theory at 60 beats per minute is because that's the beat, that's the heartbeat. The average beat of the heart is 60 beats per minute. 60, 63, somewhere up in there. Mine averages between 63 and 65. And at 57 years old, that's normal for me, especially with my body mass. And at 300 pounds on a 5'11" frame, 64, 65 is considered okay. So we find ourselves more comfortable understanding the brain waves and how the mind itself and the different segments of the mind work. He even says here, most people work with only 10% of their potential.
Right.
Right? That's all that can be reached even use of beta waves or the conscious mind, 90% can only be tapped by going deeper into the alpha theta areas in an altered state of consciousness. Now here's my question to you guys, and it's a rhetorical question, not one of which I actually absolutely expect an answer, because it's going to be different for anyone. Why do you think the standard human being lives their conscious lives, their conscious days in the alpha beta state? Why do you think humans have not been able, most, I'm going to say most because there are some out there that do live in a theta state of mind, but why do you think that people have trouble living in the deeper portions of the mind below the beta? Usually because in order to slow one's mind down enough to be able to understand theta, to be able to understand delta, spirit comes through delta in through theta, and communicates through theta through beta. And the alpha mind has to try to understand what beta is talking about. Now, is it possible? Go ahead.
That's like you, with your teaching and stuff. You would make us meditate and stuff, but the alpha brain for most people is they have to stimulate it more to be creative and minimize, I guess. Yeah.
Okay,
You wake up at.
go ahead.
Understand what I'm saying? Understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And, we can simply answer that question by vision quest. You guys, whoever attended Circle, and anyone who watched our broadcast that actually did attend some of our vision quest, if you guys will remember, we would do a 24-hour vision quest and become sleep deprived. We would eat, we'd make sure that we had refreshments and water and eat. No caffeine was allowed. Nothing that would keep you awake or keep the brain functioning in the alpha state. So by the time you reached complete and total sleep deprivation, beta and theta were usually pretty much in control, because alpha said to hell with it and it went to sleep. So doing vision quests through sleep deprivity, or through sleep depriving, if you will, it makes it easier to reach the beta and theta state.
That's like me when I get insomnia. I get more active in the spiritual astral part.
Yep. And one of the things I do want to draw your attention to, page 12 here, says I'm not sure I agree with his wording on all traditions, but I would say most traditions that believe in the astral plane say that there is more than one level to it. Several traditions state that there are 7 levels. I can attest to that. I've never seen more than 7 levels. I don't know if I've trapped myself to assuming that that's all there is, or I've never really looked. I generally tend to stay on my level of the astral. astral planes. Okay, so, and this is another paragraph I really like. Astral planes are not totally separated from one another except for the very highest of planes, which is actually above the 7 levels. And I've never been there. I don't think I have. I have no memory of it. My planes are generally running between level 1, which is entry, which is where your first landing is level 1 of the astral. Level 2 is where you generally find your astral college and the library, the acoustic records, the astral hall of records, if you will. Some people call it the hall of records, some people call it the astral records, the acoustic records, blah blah blah. But that's where the library and the librarian is, generally on the 2nd and 3rd level. Right? And in his next paragraph, he talks about witches, pagans, ceremonial magicians, and shamans believe that the astral plane is made up of spirits, both human and elemental. This otherworld realm is made up of a different type of energy that vibrates at a much higher, at much higher, which is a different rate than the physical world. That's what we were talking about a while ago, is that when you start talking about the vibrations and the different metronomes, as much as I hate to say it, the faster metronomes, the faster you get your metronomes where you can actually slow your mind down so that the mind can ascend and go up.
That's like the other day. You said the Akashic record and stuff, but they took me to another level because I was out in the cosmos where I've never seen before.
As you go further in your training, your guides within the astral will take you further up some of the levels. The highest level I've been on was 6 and 7. I wasn't on 7 much. I can tell you it's been my experience, and some people may experience it a little differently, but on level 5 I saw some of the mythological creatures, like griffins and such as that. On level 6 and 7 is where the mythological creatures live. Now, do they come down to the lower levels? Of course they do. Can you see unicorns and Pegasus and griffins and such on level 1? Of course you can. They're seldom. And a lot of people have come to me and go, I have been looking for the griffins and have not been able to find them. It's because they're not ready to find you. And that really pisses people off.
Yeah, that's where I was. I was up on the 5, I think. I saw the griffins and I saw the unicorns and some other white creature I can't describe.
Well, and see, also, as you understand and study more of the acoustic records, you can go up to the different levels in the acoustic records as well. Again, the highest I've ever been was 7. I wasn't there long. Most of the things I was reading in the 7th level of the library was gibberish. Some of the pictures, there were some interesting ass pictures, but I didn't understand what the hell they were talking about.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's funny because that happened, what's today? Sunday? Yeah, last Wednesday.
Go ahead, I lost shit last Wednesday.
That's when I did the travel up to level 5. It was interesting.
Yeah, so you can see why this book, I can't get my,
Yeah, this book will help anybody that wants to learn about astral travel. It's a very good information book for everybody. So,
Sorry,
while he's busy
I
with
dropped my
talk,
damn batteries.
that's okay. Go ahead.
I dropped my damn batteries. Uh,
But it is a good book. It's where you can practice new stuff. I know one thing. I know you said don't use herbs and stuff, but for my other depression and stuff, I use green tea. Green tea will take you up into the was it theta? It goes to the
well, yeah,
alpha.
yeah. Any I say, I'm not necessarily talking about herbs. Marijuana's an herb, but green
Right.
green tea, depending on which green tea, there's thousands of them. Um, I know a lot of people that use
Incense.
echinacea.
Yeah.
I can't take echinacea. It's not because I'm allergic to it. It's if I take echinacea, it pisses me off. Don't know why, don't know how, but I can drink echinacea tea, take echinacea tablets. That's just like what's the other root that everybody says works with depression? Um,
Mugwort.
uh, mugwort.
St. John's wort.
That's it, St. John's
That's it.
Wort. I
Yep.
can't take St. John's Wort either. Shit pisses me off. I turn into, by the third day on St. John's Wort, I turn into a son of a bitch. Don't ask me why.
I took that before. I didn't like it.
I don't know what it does to me. So,
Me either.
echinacea, St. John's Worts, I stay away from all that shit because it'll just piss me off. So we're 52 minutes past the hour. I kind of wanted to give you guys, you folks that may have never read Flying Without a Broom, because of the title. It's kind of a silly title. I get it. But it really does, the title really is apropos, because Flying Without a Broom is exactly what you're doing. Whether you call it astral travel or astral projection, tomato, I could care less. But let's think about this, and I'm going to kind of go ahead and draw down to a close.
Hang on. I'm posting in the chat area where the books are. If someone wants to download.
Okay, good.
But go ahead and talk. Go. I'll get it there.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Okay, so let's think about this. I'm going to start the 60 beats per second metronome. And I want you guys to think about this while this is playing. You can Google metronome and this will come up. It's right up there at the top. But if you listen to this long enough, it's comforting at first. It's comforting at first. It kind of slows you down a little bit. It kind of slows your heartbeat down a little bit and kind of relaxes you just a bit. But after about 2 to 3, maybe 4 minutes, it starts to get on your nerves. It really does. However, this is also 60 beats per minute is the exact same tick-tock that clocks use when you can hear the tick-tock. Right, enough of that. So you guys think about something. When you start playing with metronomes, you want to time yourself. I have always recommended that people start out at 5 minutes. Start out at 5 minutes at 60 beats per second, or 60 beats per minute. Let yourself relax, close your eyes, let yourself slide into whatever realm 60 beats per minute takes you. 5 minutes. Set an alarm. Set an alarm on something that will wake you up or bring you around in 5 minutes. Inventory how you feel. Inventory how that makes you feel. Think about where you went. Now, as I've said before, our videos are for beginners and for advanced users that kind of need to be reminded on occasion. It might do you some good to slow down. So once you've gotten to where 5 minutes of 60 beats per minute is getting on your nerves, speed it up to 70 beats per minute. Don't go stupid. After you have read Flying Without a Broom, play with those different speeds of metronomes. Ladies and gentlemen, I will recommend that you do not try to reach theta first rattle out of the box. Take your time. You got time. And don't be disheartened and don't be disillusioned if you don't remember the astral. There are some things I remember, there are some things I don't. There are sometimes I remember council sucking my ass into astral and what the conversation was about, and there are sometimes I don't. Don't stress it. Don't worry about it. The astral is a wonderful place. How you get there is up to you. I don't recommend psychotropic drugs. I never will, never have. You can do it without it. If you have bipolar, manic depression, whatever, in your own meds for that, don't stop taking your medication unless you talk to your physician. Holy shit. Have a little common sense. Not very common, I know. But the last thing I want is for somebody to jump up and say, Pegasus on Live with a Shaman told me I needed to stop taking my medication because it was setting my brain too fast. No. That's not what I'm saying. You have to do what's right for you when you're attempting to reach astral. And it's like any other rule or regulation or law when it comes to meditation. The harder you try to meditate, the harder it's going to be to achieve. Meditation just happens when you let it. Right. Well, if I can find the PDF to the other books in my recommended books, we'll talk about them and why I recommend to read them. Next week, hopefully, I'll find those. If we don't, we'll come up with something else. We'll see you next week, right here on Live with a Shaman. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.